Today you're going to get a crash course on pronouns so that you can identify pronouns and antecedents in sentences in order to use the right ones in writing. But first, a quick warning. Please don't obsess over trying to memorize all of these different categories of pronouns that I'm about to show you. I don't want you to obsess over labeling each pronoun by its type. I just want you to know that you see a pronoun in front of you and be able to recognize pronouns when they happen. So here we go. First of all, pronouns are words that replace nouns in a sentence. They can be the subject or the object of the sentence. The antecedent is the noun that is being replaced or being represented by that pronoun. So if I told you that the dog wagged its tail, dog is my antecedent, and it, or in this case its, is the pronoun replacing or representing it. Or if I told you, since I dropped my book bag in the wrong place, I had to pick it back up. Book bag is my antecedent, it is the pronoun. But to be honest, there are a whole bunch of types of different pronouns out there. I haven't even included all the different pronoun types on this slide. And on these lists, I haven't necessarily included every possible one. But here's a quick crash course. The ones that you are probably most familiar with already are these first three categories: personal subject pronouns, personal object pronouns, and possessive pronouns. Personal subject pronouns are I, you, he, she, it, we, they. These are able to be the subject of a sentence, like I go to the store or you went to the store, etc. Personal object pronouns can be the object of the sentence and receive the action of the sentence. And those are me, you, him, her, it, us, them. Possessive pronouns are the ones like my, mine, your, theirs, or our. These are usually quite easy to recognize, and they usually precede a noun, like my book bag or your basketball. The slightly harder ones to remember are relative, demonstrative, indefinite, and intensive. Relative pronouns help clarify which one. So, who, whom, that, and which are different relative pronouns, and these can be the subject of a clause or the subject of a sentence, which we can get into later. Demonstrative pronouns point out a specific one. These pieces of popcorn, those book bags, this book, that phone, or such an item. These specify. Indefinite pronouns are general categories of people or things. Few of us know the answer. Everyone in general has a brain. All of us, only some, anything, or the opposite, nobody. So, these are again our general categories. And finally, intensive pronouns are the ones that include the word self or selves, like myself, himself, itself, herself, ourselves, themselves, etc. So these are actually quite easy to recognize, even if you don't already have these memorized. Let's practice recognizing some of those pronouns and antecedents in real sentences. Take a moment to pause the video if needed, and in a moment I will give you the answers. Are you ready? Let's do this. So all the pronouns are highlighted in blue, and when appropriate, I have the antecedents underlined. So we, pronoun, went where? To the old movie theater before it closed. Now, in this case, the pronoun it is referring back to the old movie theater. He gave me our family photo album, and I promised myself that I would never lose it. And again, what does the word it represent? In this case, it goes all the way back to the antecedent, our family photo album. The king promised that Prince Charming could choose whomever he wanted to marry. I wanted that book, but my brother preferred the older edition. This is the cake that everyone agreed on, but it's such an expensive brand of icing. So here again, the word it, and even this and that all refer back to cake. The student promised himself that he would study every night before the test. All of the cars in the parking lot, which had parking permits, were towed. Whoever dropped my laptop and cracked it is going to pay for a replacement herself. So in this case, the assumption here is that the vandal is female. Hopefully that was successful for you. If so, let's move on from the basics and start correcting some common issues. One of the most frequent types of pronoun errors out there amongst English speakers is confusing subject versus object pronouns. So, as we mentioned earlier, the subject does the action, and there are certain subject pronouns that should not be confused with object pronouns that receive the action or are the recipient of the verb in that sentence, like me, you, him, her, it, us, or them. So when you look at a sentence, you need to think carefully about who's doing what. For example, a lot of people mix up when to say the word me versus when to say I. Technically, you are supposed to say, my brother and I went to the park. It would be wrong to say, me and my brother. Why? Because me is an object pronoun, and me can only happen toward the end of the sentence, like in number 2. They delivered the roses to me. In this case, I'm the recipient of that delivery. I'm receiving the roses. So I am the object, technically the indirect object, which we can get into in another video. And therefore I'm using the object pronoun me later on in the sentence. Now, numbers 3 and 4 are not me versus I sentences, but I'm showing you more subject and object pronouns. We, subject, gave a present to them, and them is one of the object pronouns. My parents drove us to the mall. We are being driven. We are receiving the action, so I'm using an object pronoun, us, in this spot. Once you get subject versus object pronouns figured out, the whole who versus whom controversy gets simpler as well. We use the word who to refer to subjects and whom to refer to objects. So I will give the trophy to whomever wins. I'm doing the action of giving. I'm giving a trophy to an indirect object, to some other person who's going to receive the trophy, so I want whom, which is the object pronoun. But in number 2, whoever wins will get the trophy. Here, there's a subject who's doing the receiving of this getting verb, so it's different. Here, this is the subject, and we're going to use who. If I ask a question, who gave me this book? Someone else gave it to me. I'm receiving that. So the word who is my subject. And number 4 is tricky. It's written as a question, so the word order is a little bit different. To whom should I write a thank you note? In this sentence, I'm still doing the writing. I'm still making the thank you note. I'm just simply asking who that thank you note is going to be given to, or who's going to receive my thank you note. So I'm going to use whom to describe who's receiving it, or who's the object. Next, let's talk about another common pronoun problem, which is pronoun agreement. A lot of modern-day English speakers mess up singular versus plural pronouns. Here's the big rule. If you are using a singular pronoun, or if you're talking about only one person or only one thing. Don't randomly switch to plural pronouns. It makes no sense and only makes you look bad. It would be wrong to say the student revised their essay. I'm only talking about one student. This is one person, singular. Don't switch to a plural possessive pronoun like their, but you could say the student revised her essay, and that's fine. Don't say that someone, singular, forgot their coat, because that's plural. Say someone forgot his or her coat, because I don't know who it is, and I don't know the gender of that person. The company is one singular group, so don't call them, or don't call the company plural. The company, singular, will throw its party tonight. Each student, singular, should not know their grade. That makes no sense, his or her. Everyone memorized his or her part. If it's got the word one in it, then that makes it singular. And finally, there's a common problem with vague pronouns out there as well. Please be careful if you're using one pronoun when there's more than one possible antecedent. And please be careful if you use a pronoun with no antecedent at all. These problems can create clarity issues. Let's take that sentence I read to you earlier. The king promised that Prince Charming could choose whomever he wanted to marry. Technically, in this sentence, I'm not 100% sure who he is. Does he mean the king, or does he mean Prince Charming? This sentence is not well written, and I'm not sure who's getting married right now. And that's not good. I would want to revise this for some clarity. It would also be a bad idea to vaguely use the pronoun this. I hate when people do that, especially in literary analysis writing or when we're talking about facts or quotes or something. Don't write in an essay, this proves that Harry Potter is the best character of all time. Because even if you're right, even if Harry Potter is the best character of all time, I'm not sure what you mean by this. Do you mean this moment? This quote? This action? This event? I don't know what you're talking about right now. You need another noun here to clarify it. If you say, I was supposed to bring him with me, well, who is him? Who's the guy? A brother? A boyfriend? I don't know. So maybe clarify in this sentence or in one of the previous or following sentences what antecedent this pronoun is referring to. Same thing for for. Who is she? Who's doing the promising? Make sure you clarify somehow. Let's practice those 3 pronoun problems that I just discussed with you. Look at these 7 questions. Is there anything wrong in these sentences, or are they fine? Make sure you focus on actual grammar rules and not just what sounds right. Let's look at the answers. Remember we talked about if the word one is in it, then that's singular. So don't say everyone has their own locker. Say everyone has his or her own locker. Number 2 is fine. Number 3 messed up me versus I. We should say my friends and I want to go to the game. Number 4 and 5 were both fine, because remember, I'm doing the inviting of someone else to prom. Someone's going to receive my invitation, so I want whom. And 6 and 7 both had vagueness issues. I'm not sure what it is and who I'm going to give it to. And in number 7, I'm not sure who's in trouble, the boy or his friend. Thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, please be sure to let someone know or rewatch the video.